Nostalgia bait. I watched this on Toonami when I was a kid, and I used to think this was the best show ever. As I rewatched the first 3 episodes, I should have stopped watching right there.
Wait, hold on. How is it nostalgia bait if you're watching the original? Re-release is the bait.
Too many boring jobs, not enough comedy. I hated how they had their theme song integrated into the show once, maybe. More than 2 is too much. I couldn't help but shake my head.
It's called a theme
song.
That was a 1-star review from My Anime List. Hello and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I am your host, Andrew, joined as always by Ryan.
I'm here.
And Steven.
Hi.
This week we are discussing the 1998 anime Outlaw Star, produced by Studio Sunrise, who have done notable works such as Cowboy Bebop, Code Geass, Inuyasha, Visions of Escaflowne, the entire Mobile Suit Gundam franchise, and so many more.
So many more.
A huge catalog.
They are a very big studio.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're talking about Outlaw Star. This is basically the first in our series of doing the holy trinity of Space Cowboy.
The
90s
anime
Space
trilogy.
Cowboy
1998 Space.
specifically.
Which consists of Outlaw Star, Trigun, and
Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop. Yeah. So this is the first one and probably the most like cult classic out of the 3.
The least well known, I guess.
It's definitely well known if you watched Toonami back in the day, especially like 2002 or 2001, I think. But but this one definitely didn't have the commercial success that clearly Cowboy Bebop did or Trigun did.
It's also like the least available. Of been like I found it.
It's
on
hard
Hulu,
to find.
but like for years I haven't seen this available streaming anywhere.
Yes.
You know, whereas Cowboy Bebop will pop up on different stuff.
Netflix
on
is like, we got it.
Yeah.
So it's really weird, even though at least Cowboy Bebop and this are both under Sunrise, their rights for this are much harder to come by for some reason or another for streaming.
Maybe like music or something.
Like a writer or something, a producer had a really good contract in their clause.
Yeah. Who knows? I honestly don't know. Huh. So here's a quick synopsis of Outlaw Star.
Now, hold on now. Before we get into sauce, gut check.
Gut check.
Start with Andrew.
I have an Outlaw Star tattoo on my shoulder. It's a very large one. I spent a lot of money on it. I love this show.
So I hate this show.
You have an original animation cell on your wall?
I have 2.
2.
Yes.
I like the show pretty good. It's got a lot of style. It oozes personality, but it's a little bit inconsistent.
Inconsistent is a good answer.
Yeah.
I'll give it that.
That's what I would.
Yeah.
Definitely a little rough around the edges. I think it is pretty good. Much better than I remember from my last couple of viewings, I think. Or it hits differently now, maybe, as I'm getting older.
Yeah.
Well, I think this show does a fantastic job of world building and generally set dressing. It's a very it's very intoxicating with the kind of enthusiasm that it has for like the content that it's showing you. That's the best way I could describe it.
It has that 90s charm with kind of the intro exposition in the episodes, like you get with G Gundam as well, which I can totally see.
It's so over the top and just like really overly dramatic, but it's kind of fun.
In the wrong moment or the wrong person, it can land. You're like, ooh, that's just. But when it hits, man, it hits. Yeah. Right.
So I'll do a quick synopsis and we can continue talking. So Gene Starwind and his partner Jim Hawking run a small business on a backwater planet of Sentinel-3, but all that changes one day, or the day that Hilda hires them to be a bodyguard. That's a weird sentence. Now thrust into a mystery they don't fully understand. They're on the run from the cops, the pirates, an angry alien, and a mysterious assassin. But they've got one thing going in their favor. They have the galaxy's most advanced ship, the Outlaw Star. And that's
a really good summary.
That was both a good summary and still didn't give anything away.
Yeah. But I think this show, the best way I always try and describe this show, or when I'm talking about it, I'll say like the holy trinity of space cowboy shows. So Cowboy Bebop is for the vibes. Yeah. Trigun is for the story. Yeah. And this is for the fun. Yeah. Because this show reminds me a lot of like 1950s sci-fi serial comics. Okay. Or like pulp fiction comics or whatever, where it's kind of like, in this week on, what Jim Hawking is doing this week. Right. And, those kind of like really just like totally over the top kind of things, like this is what this show feels like to me.
See,
Yeah.
to me, and this is going to be similar, but I feel like Outlaw Star is the romanticization of an adventure.
Yes.
Trigun is the adventure, and Cowboy Bebop is the PTSD after.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting, just because like all three of these shows all kind of came out around the same time. Outlaw Star came out first in April of 1998. Bebop and Trigun were basically the fall season of 1998.
Man, what a year.
Yeah, heck of a year. But
Yeah.
they were all under production around the same time, and it's
All at Sunrise, right? In
no
Trigun?
Trigun's Madhouse.
Oh, okay.
They are being run through the same focus groups.
I guess. Who knows?
So
there are
how
no
do we-
focus groups for
How do we
anime.
feel about big guns? We like them, yeah. Okay, good. Dusters are in, yes.
Yes?
But yeah, so the story for Outlaw Star is based off of a manga, a seinen manga written by Takehito Ito, and it was just 3 volumes of the manga. Now, if you want to try and go look for the manga, it doesn't exist.
Good luck.
There is no official English translation for the manga at all.
Huh.
There is a lovely group of people that have a whole Discord that they are basically actively going through and translating.
Like crowd translating.
But they're
it.
not finished with it yet. They're only about, I think, like 16 or 17 chapters into it, and there's, I think, like 23 chapters.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
They're getting there then.
it's getting there, but it's a very slow process.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine that goes quickly.
Yeah, but the cool thing is that the manga, if you want to go read the manga and compare it to the show, they are completely different.
In what ways?
So the manga feels more like a prequel to the show.
Okay.
So basically all of the manga so far has taken place on Sentinel-3, and there's a lot of big differences. So like they already have the Outlaw Star when they're on Sentinel-3, and it's not like a ship that they have to go find.
Got it.
And yeah, like the pirates that they fight in the first episode are basically the main antagonist of
That's
the whole
it.
manga.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a totally different thing, and it's much more adult. There's a lot more nudity and just adult themes and that kind of
You
stuff.
can get
in
away
it.
with that when you're not supposed to be broadcast TV.
Yes, and they still honestly did quite a bit with the show.
They
Yeah.
sure did. So that's one of my things that I thought was interesting that first watch through probably not everything was just immediately obvious to me.
Yeah.
But it does a good job, I think, of you get a lot of what I would just call anime. This is anime, cat girl, anime, But
Yeah.
also some stuff where suddenly like you go from anime to your character is doing this. You're like, whoa, they're going to show this on screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, like when he there's a scene where Gene basically hooks up with this lady, and you're post-coitus, and it's like, oh wow, we never really see this in anime that much. Like two people, under
Yeah.
the covers right after it's happened, and you're like, huh. Usually it just goes to the next morning.
This is different. Yeah.
This is okay, all right.
The silhouettes kiss and they fall into the bed, and then the blackness fades in. And
Yeah, well,
you
I mean,
just assume, right?
Yeah.
This was definitely one of the, I'm not even going to say edgy shows, because there's clearly a ton more edgy stuff that came before this, like Ninja Scroll or whatever.
sure. Yeah.
There's always the edgelordy or edgelord out there.
Yeah.
Wicked City.
But for especially, I think the biggest thing for me is that I was really surprised whenever they, like, after looking at it from an adult perspective, they brought this to Toonami as one of their headliner lineups. Now, granted, the Toonami broadcast had a ton of edits.
Sure.
Like, so Melfina, one of the main characters, she's kind of like this bio-android navigator. And in the show, if you haven't seen it, she basically kind of sits in this, like, glass tube while she's navigating the ship, and she's naked in it.
Yeah.
But
it's like she's
in the
covering herself
She's
up.
covering herself up,
Yeah,
but in the
yeah.
Toonami broadcast, they basically made her have like a sports bra on and like kind of like a
like bikini briefs type thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but they went over and above on the Toonami broadcast to like remove a lot of
Like blood became blue, right?
sometimes, or it was just gone completely.
Or it just didn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a scene in one of the episodes, in episode like 7 or 8, I think, where Gene gets injured and he's kind of trying to hide it, and then Jim like goes over to like pat him on the back, and then he looks at his hand and there's blood on it.
And on Toonami, he just looks at his hands like, "What are you doing, kid?"
Yeah, like in the Toonami version, he just looks at his hand. He's scared, and I'm like, "What's on his hand?"
Yeah.
It just looks like a
I don't
hand,
get
boy.
it. He just realized he has hands?
No, no.
Yeah.
My hands, they can touch everything except themselves.
Well,
Wait
it's
a
funny
minute.
because that's like the end of the episode, and you're just like, "What happened?"
What happened? What's going
Yeah.
So
Then you wait a week, and then when the next one comes on Toonami, you're like, what? We're not talking about the hand thing?
Yeah, so I clearly watched this whenever it first came out on Toonami. That's where I was introduced to it, and I'm pretty sure that's all three of us
So
here.
yeah, I saw it on Toonami, and I never finished it because just like a lot of things on Toonami, like
it kind of gets lost to the wayside.
Well, I would do something after school one day, so I didn't get to catch Toonami, and I would come home and be like, oh, I missed an episode. And so like for this one, I never saw the back, I would say third of it.
Oh, okay, yeah. So watching it this time was probably
this is my first time all the way through. Yeah, like the Toonami viewing I had was, I would say, most of the first 2/3. Probably a missed episode here and there, but a lot of them I'd be like, oh, I remember this episode. You know,
you also had the issue with Toonami where like not just like, oh, I missed it a week, but like I remember Dragon Ball Z, right? Like you get to a point, they'd be like, okay, time to start it over again. Like, come on,
so I gotta wait. They didn't have the dub for anything else.
They didn't have the dub from the episode where he fights Burter and Jace when Goku arrives on Namek for the first time, and then the next episode is when he's fighting Raditz again. You're like, no, what is this? And you have to go through the whole. Anyways,
and then if you don't want to, you have to like try and time it out. Like, how many weeks do I not watch this before I have to be here?
Well, and also because they wouldn't announce that.
Yeah, they didn't tell you.
Like, you didn't know that like Goku's not going to continue to be on Namek next week.
Ryan. The stupid kids aren't going to know any difference. Look, it's the dude with the hair and the orange suit. They love it.
I'll never forget the first time that happened when like me and my cousin Corey and my brother Chris, we got around the TV. Here we go, baby. And it's like Raditz. And you're like, is this a flashback?
We're about to fight Frieza, and there's Raditz. No.
Yeah, and you're like, what's happening? And then you realize, oh my, we're in for like 40 weeks of just like rehash.
The ultimate flashback.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm curious so I've seen this show, I mean, definitely in the teens, probably closer to the 20s at this point for how many times I've seen it. It's just kind of one of those shows where like if I find myself at an impasse of what I want to watch, but I want to watch something nostalgic, I'll just throw this on. Sometimes I won't make it through the whole show. I'll probably cherry pick the episodes that I really like. But this was probably the first like full run through that I've done probably in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I mean, I genuinely like the show. I think it's a lot of fun. Now, I do agree that there's a lot of inconsistencies with it. One, with the pacing, the storytelling, and the animation quality.
I was going to say, that's my biggest, I think my biggest drawback compared to Trigun or Bebop.
Yeah,
right?
and Bebop, now I'll say, is a very unfair comparison here.
It is.
The team working on Bebop was
out of control.
Yeah.
And so that's a very bad comparison. But even
Trigun is a good example because that also does waver quite a bit in animation quality.
Not as much as this, though.
Oh, you?
No. I recently rewatched Trigun.
I just recently watched
Trigun. like 2 years ago. For real. I think where Trigun gets away with it a lot, though, is it does the chibi animation every now and then. So they can kind of like fake some stuff.
They don't really do that in this. Everyone's always trying to be on model.
The problem once in a while you'll get a like with Jim a lot.
A little bit,
but like not to an extent.
Asia.
Okay, now Asia's a different whole different fish.
The problem I think here is that like when they take it to like a 10, it's like Trigun is like pretty much an 8 or a 7 the whole way through.
Pretty much, yeah.
This gets up to a 10 every now and then, and then like, drops to like a 4 or a 5, and then so like it's the heartbeat style back and forth that is way more noticeable. You know.
Yes, I think when you're talking about the Toonami, I think my Toonami watch through, I missed somewhere in the middle block. So it was like all of a sudden, you know, because it not spoiling or anything, but it just kind of escalates very rapidly.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like, yo, whatever, me in high school was like,
we're in the end game.
What the heck are we? What is going on right now? You know, like
it does scale pretty quickly.
So that always cracks me up because I think I've watched it through now in its entirety twice, but I've watched bits and pieces different times. But when I hit that point, I was like, oh yeah, I do remember. It was just like, holy crap, we just launched stratosphere, vertical curve.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I really like about this show, outside of just like the action's really fun, and honestly the voice acting for both the dub and the sub are acceptable.
Again, for the 90s, this is a good dub.
This is really good, yeah.
The voice actors for Melfina, Jim, and Jean really sell out.
Yeah.
And they do a fantastic job in some of the more dramatic scenes.
Badly for Aisha's voice actors.
Oh, she just has to scream.
She won too many awards.
Because all she does is scream. Can you imagine being the guy who has to like monitor that audio for the whole day?
Yeah. Well, so
I work with you two guys on a podcast. What are you talking about?
Her English voice actress.
Yeah, sorry, Andrew, continue.
Well, no, her English voice actress definitely can be a little bit grating after a while.
I think initially, once I got used to her, I was fine.
Then it's fine, yeah. Her Japanese, she's the same voice actress as Asuka from Evangelion. So that just like fits right into that same character archetype for me.
Yeah.
But before I was really interrupted, I was talking about how the thing that I really love about this show is I love the matte backgrounds that they have.
Yeah.
They're incredibly detailed, and the world that they kind of like show, it's very similar to where like if Chinese culture kind of just like permeated everything, and they really run with a lot of the stylization.
Yeah.
That you don't really see in other anime. I'll even say like Bebop or Trigun or really anything else. Like I haven't really seen another show since Outlaw Star that really has like encapsulated just like this hyper stylized world that feels really lived in.
Yeah.
It's a really, I mean, you mentioned this earlier, but it is a really well built world. It feels like it fits together. It feels like these people have existed in this world for a long time. This is old hat. This is just everyday. This is normal. Hey, like the way the combat where everything flows like people it doesn't do the sci-fi thing to you where they throw the 1.21 gigawatts at you and to figure it out what it means. Oh, they're the lindenberries instead of the grapes. Okay, cool. It doesn't do that, but it does a good job of dropping words and phrases and stuff that all the characters understand that you kind of learn as the show goes.
Right.
You figure out what it means.
Well,
and that kind
and
of
the thing that I really like about this story specifically is Gene and Jim, they're not neophytes in this world. They're not like experiencing stuff new for the first time. They've lived in it. They've been here.
So they're a little.
They're a little clueless on certain aspects,
things, but that makes it work.
Yeah, that makes it more
like Gene is still a capable person of like being a bodyguard or flying.
And they
things,
fix everything from relationships to cars, right?
Yeah.
He's seen a lot.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's the characters.
Yeah.
Like the characters are great in this show.
They're all they all feel real.
Yeah.
They're all the silhouette test really well.
For sure, yeah. But they're all interesting and unique enough on their own right to where it's like, man, I want to see more with, Suzuka. I want to see a whole spin-off episode with her. I want to see more with,
So I definitely think that Suzuka is probably one of the least utilized characters out of the whole show.
She is, yes.
Yeah.
But I actually really like Aisha a lot.
Oh, yeah. I would love a whole Aisha spin-off episode. Like, I think that's what I kept waiting for because you get that in like Bebop and some other stuff where you have like this whole episode dedicated to like this one person kind of doing their thing. And we didn't get a ton of that. It's mostly Jim and Gene. And then everyone else.
You get some Melfina stuff.
You get some stuff, but it's like, I wanted a whole episode of just like, let me know about the Katarl.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on over there?
What
are they like?
These people.
So it's funny that you kind of talk a little bit about spinoffs and extra stuff. So this show got, like during production, there was another production that was happening at Sunrise that basically they were like, oh, this show is going to be really big. So we're going to tie in basically the world or the story of this show called Angel Links. And we're going to tie it into Outlaw Star and we're just going to base it in the same universe or whatever.
Okay.
On paper, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Because it gives you a lot more options of like ways to storytell and open up the world a little bit more. Because this world that they've built is really tactile and it feels real.
Yeah.
For the show or for the episode that we're reviewing right now,
for his own personal self.
In media res currently.
I watched Angel Links front to back.
Front to back?
And I cannot tell you how bad that show is.
Wow. What's the premise of Angel Links? Is that what it says?
It's just
like LINKS or LYNX?
LINKS. So basically,
you never know if it's an
size cat or chain link.
Katarl.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
Pretty much one of the only like quotation marks filler episodes in Outlaw Star introduced two of the characters that are in Angel Links. It's basically a dinosaur and the girl with like big spiky blonde hair.
It's the military.
It's the military space forces guy. So
Okay.
it's a good episode in Outlaw Star.
Episode.
Yeah.
It is.
But you get to this, and I kid you not, it is by far one of the worst animes I have ever seen.
So
And
are they the main
something.
characters?
No.
Okay.
They're secondaries.
But that ties it.
Yeah.
So who's the main characters in Angel Links?
It's just this Mayfong girl.
It's not important. You
Okay.
don't want to know.
Yeah, it's just nothing good about
But
it.
so basically, they took just the set dressing of like what Outlaw Star looked like visually wise,
Yeah.
and then they just said we're going to just have this show in it, and it like contradicts like so much stuff about like the technology and just how
all the
world
things you
works.
learned about the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
don't
it was
watch
just a
it.
cash in.
Oh, not even a cash in.
You have
It wasn't
to
even
make
successful.
Well, yeah, it
money
wasn't
to get
successful.
cash
Yeah,
in.
true.
So the last bit that I was gonna say, because you were talking about this with the Cowboy Bebop, and I think maybe where some of the rough edges really land on this is like Bebop is emphatically episodic.
Yes.
And it has
Yeah.
a bit of an arc in the middle, but it's just episodic.
Yeah.
This feels like an arc to where when you have an episodic episode, you're like, what are we doing? Why are we here? We don't
No,
need
yeah,
this,
that's
you know?
a little bit of the inconsistency with the plot, I would say, is that because it's almost like it needs to pick either
Yeah.
be an overarching arc or be episodic, because
Well,
you would get 2 or 3 of those episodic episodes, and then when it comes back to the plot, I'm like, so not to before the spoiler wall, what I'll say is when you get to the end of the series, then they bring back in these pirates that I guess you were supposed to have been worried about from the front. And I went, oh yeah, I had forgotten that they were in play and that they were even chasing anybody. And I go, oh, on 10-7, I forgot that they existed.
They just show
We've
up.
moved past it for so many episodes that I just blanked that they were even the problem.
Yeah,
Continue.
Well, and that's I think that's definitely one of the biggest things with this show is it is inconsistent with its episodes.
Yeah.
And there really is only like 2 actual filler episodes where the story doesn't progress in some way or another that moves forward.
Right, yeah.
And
Well, if nothing else, it develops the characters.
yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It still develops characters and it still develops relationships with like people in the crew, but it doesn't do any like big like storytelling devices.
It just
or
feels
anything.
it feels like you're mostly on rails, and then when you're off, you really feel the right.
Yeah.
There's 2 episodes which we'll get to beyond the spoiler wall that like I almost always skip just because like I don't
Ooh.
really need to watch them.
Heresy, my goodness.
No, it's not heresy. I've seen this show so many times.
Do you need a whole bevy of content to sustain your crew on the way to the galactic ley line? Well, SpoilersIntendedPodcast.com has got an offer for you. That's right, you can go there and check out all of our previous episode along with links to things like our Discord, our Patreon, and our socials.
So you should absolutely join us on Discord. We love to talk about new shows, old shows like this. Honestly, it's just a good
Long-running
time.
spoiler
Our
threads for
pets,
TV
food.
shows.
All sorts of fun stuff.
We also have social media. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. It's the easiest way to follow us, to find out what we're going to be covering, and just, have a discussion with us. It's fun.
All right, and we are back from the spoiler wall. We've bursted through the Galactic Ley Line's cloud of hissiness.
It is. It's the cloud of madness.
Cloud of madness, yeah.
I love
Yeah.
when which we're through the spoiler wall right now. When
Yeah.
the Catarl ship flies in and they're just Catarl.
Yeah.
Just
I
screaming.
regret.
Yeah, I love
Well,
that.
I think that's one of my favorite bits of world building that they do with like just alien races is
Yeah.
because like they have the episode like the prelude episode where they talk a little bit about like all the different alien races that have
Yeah.
been kind of explored or whatever,
they've
and then the
encountered humans.
Katara are just so mad all the time.
I'm like, oh, so they're just really stupid Klingons. Got it. Okay.
High energy Klingons. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, when their whole ship
Well,
screams.
and Aisha is like, oh, the Catarl, they're going in. Like, why are they coming back up?
So there isn't a ton of trivia
I'm
for
actually
this.
shocked by that.
Well,
I
so
guess
it's
there's not really a continuing universe.
It's
per
really
se.
tough because the issue is that unfortunately the show wasn't successful enough commercially in Japan for them to go into like any actual like sequels or anything like that, which they really tried to do. So
Yeah, I was gonna say the last episode ends with like basically after the credits, it's like
see you next time.
everybody's
Yeah.
coming back.
Yeah.
Get ready.
We'll get
And I
the
was
crew
like,
back together.
Well, did they?
All
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah, so basically, these are the only two pieces of trivia that I have.
I'm surprised they didn't get like a movie or like an OVA or some kind of like something.
I would love to see just some kind of small resurgence, even just
a
like,
little.
A really well animated like 2-part OVA.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, that'd be great. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so Morningstar Studio also drafted a proposal for a sequel to Outlaw Star in the form of a single episode OVA, specially titled Outlaw Star 2 Sword of Wind. On its official website with character designs and a plot outline set 3 years after the events of Outlaw Star. It was to continue the adventures of Gene Starwind and his new starship named Sword of Wind.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like a Suzuki reference, actually.
So unfortunately that never happened, and then all the money got poured into doing Angel Links, and that just didn't turn out.
Didn't pan out.
Yeah. So then the other pieces just aired on. This aired on the evening Toonami block beginning of January 15th, 2001. It ended on February 21st, 2001. So basically, like, they just did like a whole month of the show, and then it just kind of, this broadcast was heavily edited due to its adult content. Profanity was removed. Scenes with violence and lewd behavior were cut or toned down, and many scenes containing nudity were altered digitally by inserting clothing on characters. Episode 23, which is when they visit the hot spring planet, was completely just cut completely out. Which, I mean, to be fair, is probably a ton of extra work to make that happen.
Well, there's only really a few scenes that are like nudity.
The problem is that it actually it's not a filler episode.
Right.
Because I remember watching the broadcast on Toonami, and the next, like, the episode when they're going to the Galactic Island, it's like, where do you get the shells? Yeah. They're like, that old man on the mountain. I'm like, what mountain? Yeah. This show is just buck wild sometimes, just with how much they had to edit and that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, in some respects, not to draw upon the current everyone's favorite phrase, but like, this is it's got a little bit of a Game of Thrones of the anime to it, right? Like, we have our main character isn't perfect goody two shoes. Yeah, he goes out. He goes out, sees a hooker. Yeah,
hangs out with some prostitutes.
Fights like. First or second episode, we introduce, a trio of quote unquote bad guys. Okay, cool. These are the recurring. Oh, they blew that dude away.
Yeah, and they're murdered.
Hey, that dude is just dusted. Oh, cool. We've been introduced to one of our other men. No, she's dead. Okay. Yeah. Like, it feels, for as little as the in danger the crew is, like, they're not really ever in true mortal peril per se.
Yeah.
It still feels really threatening because they have no problem just killing other people. Like, hey, they put a lot of work in this. Oh, they're dead.
Well, and the thing is, too, I think it does a really good job of escalating the threats as the series goes on, because you really, once you get introduced to the McDougal brothers, and then kind of like the mentality that they bring to the table of kind of there's no limits to what, they're going to do whatever they can to get whatever they need.
Right.
So, you have the episode where they're basically fighting them in the asteroid field, and, lo and behold, there's 2 ships.
Oops, betrayal.
Yeah.
Right.
Then you have the episode where he basically tries to, kidnap Melfina. Ish.
Right.
Yes, he tries to break in. Outlaw Star.
Yeah, and then he basically loses his arm. Which
what's the younger McDougal's name?
Harry.
Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah. His whole character was manic. It was one scene he's
imbalanced.
Really angry at Melfina, and then he's like, I'm in love with her, and I'm like, what is happening?
Well,
I'm trying to follow this guy.
Mentally unstable.
That's a pretty good mentally unstable and an abusive.
Yes, but honestly, whenever he dies at the end, I'm like, man, you really tried, didn't you?
He gave it a shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, especially whenever he's fighting Hazanko, which is probably one of my favorite, animated scenes of him just, rushing at him and trying to, shoot missiles and stuff, and Hazanko's just standing there what's going on?
Just a freaking pillar. Dude's a statue, literally.
I love Hazanko's design. Just because he's got, the really long, weird hat with the little yin-yang symbols on the, the tassels.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
and then his shoulder pads that just come out.
For as
he's kind of like... what's his face from Into the Spider-Verse?
Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, the big dude.
The big dude.
Yeah, big bad guy.
Big bad guy.
Yeah, big black
Prowler?
Kingpin.
Oh, Kingpin. I was like,
he's just kind of a brick.
Yeah. But he's more of a V brick.
Well,
He's got a defined shoulder to waist ratio. Kingpin is just a
Square.
refrigerator.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's interesting too, like, because the Anton 7 are introduced relatively early. Like, you get a look at them fairly early on, and then they just kind of cease to be relevant for most of it.
Yeah.
Like, you get the fighter in the competition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And then-
episode 15 is when they get introduced when he fights Shimi.
It felt way earlier to me. I don't know why.
No, it happens at episode 15.
Really?
Yes,
I would have said the same thing.
I would have said
Steven.
like episode 6, man.
Who were the people doing magic in the first
Well,
episode?
so those are still
those are-
still the pirates.
those
Those
are
are
the
K-pirates.
pirates.
Those are K-pirates,
But
right?
those are
Okay.
not part of the Anten
I'm just
7.
making sure I was
Yeah.
understanding that correctly.
Yeah.
So those are the pirates. So okay, but we've heard of the On 10-7 before the 15th episode, right? They haven't mentioned their name.
not
Okay.
once.
I could have
would've
swore they
sworn
did. I
that
would have
like the council
Yeah.
meeting with them in the dark room, and it's like where it does the I would have sworn that was like episode 6.
Yeah, me too. I would have gone to prison perjuring myself in court on that one.
Well, okay, well I take that part back at least because it does feel like they get introduced early, and it may just be there's a lot that starts happening in those episodes.
There is
Could be.
because like episode 15 is episode like 15 through like 21 are pretty packed.
And you don't
Outside of the episode where they go to the planet with the pirate guy, which that one I don't like that episode.
the underwater,
the
Ahab,
the literal pirate
Yeah,
guy.
the actual.
my white whale.
That's one of the worst animated episodes.
That
they
was
had.
that
That's
one.
a pretty bad episode. Yeah.
There was another episode.
Cactus Plant.
No.
Cactus
Oh,
Aliens.
so what was
I actually
the-
like
Cactus
Cactus
Alien's a good
Alien.
episode.
What was the end of the first core? Episode 13?
Episode episode
Should- it
12.
should technically
That's when
fall under
they're
13.
Mortal Kombat with the El Dorado.
That one's really well animated.
It is,
right?
yes.
And then the very next one, so 13,
Yeah,
is
that's
like
that's the
one of the worst animated. I just
That's
remember
Alien Cactus.
it is.
Yeah.
I just remember like Gene's face doesn't even look like
it's
Gene.
terrible,
Dude,
yeah.
like it goes from literally the top. I was like, whoa, this show looks great. To like, because there's a few episodes in like episodes 2 and 3
it dips a
where
little
it's like
bit,
dips,
yeah.
and I was like, ooh, did y'all like lose the budget this early in the show?
It didn't have any budget.
Right, and then just
lose
on
it if you don't
episode
have it.
12, you're like, oh man, and then 13, you're like, yikes, we spent it all on that battle scene.
I sent him a message for I don't remember, it's like episode 24.
Episode 23 or 24, I think.
They do the intro and they do like one of those classic 4-panel / where each character's in their own panel.
Yeah.
And I sent him a screenshot of that. I was like, did they change animations? These people's chins look terrible. Suzuka looks horrible in this image. Like, oh my God, why, of all the freeze frames, why that one?
Why that one? Yeah.
Well, so I mean, this is pretty much common in any anime where basically you have different teams and different animation directors animate different episodes. Basically, so you can have one guy that works on episode 7, episode 15, episode 24, and episode 25.
You've got your missile guy, and he's only needed for 4 episodes.
Well,
and,
it's that, but then it's also
I'm the
just so they
missile
have
guy.
enough
The missile
time.
guy.
So that you basically have like a rolling cast of animators and animation directors that can basically do 2 or 3 episodes for the whole show, and then you have 5 of them. So then that does the whole show basically.
Right. Yeah.
So the best animated episodes are basically episode 7, episode 15, episode 21. I think that's the one with the cat girl, and then girl with cats.
That's the cat assassin.
There it is. Yeah.
and
the
then,
saddest
and then episode
episode.
25, and I guess 26, but that's animated by someone else. But
Right.
Yeah, the cat assassin episode.
That's my favorite episode.
It makes me so. Oh yeah, of course it is. You want to cry. That's all Andrew wants to do.
Well, no,
Make me
it's-
cry.
No, it's not even really that. It's really more on the lines of one, the 2 fights that they have are
They're
fantastic.
good. Yeah.
But I really like the concept of having these like
The separate pods.
yeah, like
or
the
whatever.
separate pods for the grappler ship, where, up until that point where, they're just like, oh, this is just a normal fight or whatever, and then they split apart.
Like,
and
oh,
the
yeah.
shock of like, oh no, this is a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, uh-oh.
And then you have the good B plot of Jim, like, kind of going out of his shell a little bit, and
getting a first love girlfriend when
Yeah.
you're like 11
Yeah.
or 12. I really love his interactions with Jean there, where he's like trying to ask a question. She's like, wait a minute. You found a girl? Jim, are you becoming a man?
they do such a good job of really hitting home of their kind of like not really father-son relationship, but also not brother.
It's very much so
yeah.
the older brother who's like already upper teens when the other kid gets born feel to it in a way where they're not truly like just a brother who's 2 years older than you.
Yeah.
But they're also not old enough to be a father kind of thing. I had something with that relationship and just straight out of my head. Oh no.
So
well, real quick, while we're talking about like older brother energy that he has, at the end, at the very last episode, it's like 20-year-old Gene Starwind. I'm like, he can't even drink.
Like, well, you can't drink in Japan, but,
right? But I was like, hold on, he's 20. This whole time, I would have pegged him at like 25, 26, like mid 20s.
Yeah.
It's like 20-year-old Gene Starwind. I was like, stop. What are you?
So some
just
of that
finished high school a few years ago.
Some of that is definitely translation that goes with it, but I'm pretty sure that the story starts out and he's 19.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, again, for like a neophyte story, that's pretty typical, but they're a little more seasoned than that. And I will say, oh my gosh, why is this such a struggle? It's the same thought. It's just gone again. I give up.
Okay, well, while Stephen Wallace
You're
and
the
his
worst.
own oldness, what is your favorite episode?
The cactus episode's good.
It's fun.
It's fun. The sewers with Aisha and Aisha.
Well, I love how she keeps popping up. Like, typically when you have this, they're an antagonist, and now we've converted them. They're with the crew forever. This
Right.
girl's like, you're waiting tables, you just randomly pop up. Oh, you just got this job, you're going to lose it because you get mad at these people because they showed up.
I think that's why I like a lot of these characters and the general overall story about the show is because you have like these really just feels like realistic interactions with these characters, and they go in and out. They're not always there as part of the crew. The only people that are constants are Jim, Gene, and Melfina.
I liked the wrestling episode too.
Really?
I love the wrestling
very fun.
episode.
Oh man, I feel so bad for Reiko.
Yeah. I know. like by all rights, the way the episode is set up, you shouldn't be rooting for her. And then towards the end of it, you're like, "Come on, girl, do it!
Yeah,
do it!"
Yeah.
Yeah, you like. I don't mind that episode, and I remember not liking it as a kid because it didn't have like the type of like I wanted space action.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't have gun
They didn't get on the
battles.
ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't go out and grapple something.
What about you? What's some of your favorite episodes?
So outside the cat assassin episode, I really
When you say that, you mean the little girl that's got the cat, Jim's
with
girl.
the-
Okay.
it's really tough because I genuinely like just about every single episode. I think probably my favorite one that I rewatched the most is probably episode 7 and 8, where basically they're kind of like going about their daily life. They're back on Sentinel-3 and the pirates attack them.
Trying to make ends meet.
So Melfina gets attacked by the big dude, and then Suzuka comes and saves her. I really like that episode, but then the episode whenever they go into space for the first time, which is the next one, where they're like you have the whole startup sequence of the Outlaw Star for the first time, and you have like the music just really hits on that episode.
Yeah.
And then you have the great grappling fight in space right when they get up there.
Yeah.
I love that episode. And it's kind of one of those things too where that was the first time you see like a grappler ship fight, and it's so silly. Like
It really is.
because like
It
they
makes,
they got like swords and like.
Oh, I like it. It's a different type of space
I love
combat.
it, but it's so silly.
It is kind of silly.
It is
Yeah.
silly.
It's like the most like stylized
Physics takes a back seat.
Oh yeah, but man,
Yeah.
it's animated so well.
But yeah, the two ships are like locking hands, like spinning around, doing 360s.
It's like
You're
everyone would be dead from G-forces by
yeah,
this point.
just
Yeah, I really love the music in the show too.
Yeah, music's really
I think it's done by Ko Otani. He did Mobile Suit Gundam, if you're familiar with that. But I think this is probably one of his best albums that he's worked on. Honestly, it's just really really good music.
Banger music throughout. Intro's great. Outro's a
Oh
tonal
yeah,
shift,
the
amazing.
opening and the ending songs are fantastic and totally different tonal shifts too.
Oh, completely.
Very
Yeah.
different.
So the fun part is, and I actually do have a little bit of trivia for the ending, like title
The
slides.
title slides that look so weird and different.
So
yeah.
those
They
were
look like the thing that semi-goth girl
Yep.
who's also an artist would put in her Trapper Keeper when you're like 13 or 14.
Her name is either Mallory or Emily most of the time, and then
I can see it, yeah,
yeah.
But yeah, so those were there's actually not a ton of information about these. So the showrunners, Mitsuru Hongo and Takehito Ito, the original writer, they wanted something unique that wasn't seen anywhere else from like standard anime at the time, which always had kind of like Inuyasha style outros where you have these.
Yeah, like
Can you draw me the outro in the style of a 14-year-old American girl who's trying to discover herself?
So
using watercolor pencils, please.
the artist, I'll look it up real quick. I had his name, and for some reason it's not on my document.
Yeah.
but
That's all right. I'll jump in the middle here. The point I kept trying to remember is it's easy to forget the age difference between Jim and Gene because Jim is so hyper competent and knowledgeable all the time.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
when you hit that bit where he's like, first puppy love kind of thing going on, and you feel the gulf between them in age.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to just be like, he's just a short 30-year-old.
He's a short 30-year-old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for most of the
Danny
series.
DeVito would play him in the movie.
Yeah, so the ending art slides are done by Hikaru Tanaka, and there is basically almost no information about this guy.
Wow.
This guy
He's off the grid.
Showed up,
did-
laid down the fire, took his money, and left.
According to basically his website, which has no other information on it, he did these stills in 2 weeks. They approached him back in like 1996, and they were like, "Hey, we want some really unique looking
Stylized,
sci-fi
yeah.
stylized slides that are kind of reminiscent of like Chinese culture, and we want it to be the ending for this show." And that's it. And they were just like, do whatever you want.
You do you.
I wonder
Yeah.
if that's all the ones he did, or if there's some other they left out.
There's none.
Oh, that's crazy.
There are only
That's
8.
crazy.
It's just wild that like, and it's just so unique because I've never seen another show do it something similar to this.
So
Yeah.
you asked him, you didn't ask me what my favorite.
What's your
episode
favorite? Well, I asked him, and then we got
could've
distracted.
Sidetracked.
What's your favorite
Yeah.
episode?
Well, I just gotta bring it back around here now.
Uh-huh.
Put the spotlight back on where it belongs.
It's the cactus episode.
No,
should be.
Although
It's fun.
I
It's
do
a
like
good
the cactus.
episode.
Good
So
episode.
this is similar to that. It's the tugboat episode.
Oh, I love the tugboat episode.
yeah.
Because in
Yeah.
a way, that episode feels like if you just took that plot and dropped it into Bebop,
Make it work.
it would work
Yeah.
flawlessly
yeah.
the whole way through.
Well,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, like one of the whole conceits of the show is that they run a small business. They're basically always poor, and they're trying to make ends meet. If you don't have these kind of episodes where you show them doing small business
independently
stuff,
wealthy, yeah.
then it doesn't really like hit that same level of like these people are real.
Right. Yeah.
So I actually really like the tugboat episode quite a bit.
I'd forgotten when we were thinking of favorite episodes. That one's really good.
Yeah.
Because
Which
it does, like you say, it feels like the one on Bebop where they have the mouse.
It's the seal.
or
The seal.
The seal. Yeah.
seal. Eco-terrorist.
Yeah, it's very similar.
It's very similar. Like I said, you could drop that plot into Bebop seamlessly, and I would not question it in the least bit.
Yeah.
It would just fit. So yeah, and that's. I mean, because you all took wrestling, you took Cat Assass, like you took the other Cactus is a good one. Another thing I like, we touched on world building, right? Mm-hmm. I like all of our different aliens, and
We had some fun ones.
I can never remember any of their names. We have Meta Knight and Bird Lawyer.
I thought that was the actual name. I was like, was it called
So
Meta Knight?
you have,
I know.
But it's the
Yeah,
round. The
I know.
repair guy.
I know who you're talking
It's
about.
Meta
but
Knight.
So Guardians,
Bird
I think,
lawyer.
is the bird.
I'm just a simple Southern bird lawyer. That's what he sounds like too. It's amazing.
Now see here, son.
Would you like a mint
I
julep?
always forget that this dude just full on foghorn leghorns this thing, and
Yeah.
he opens his mouth like, "Oh my god!" They were like, "Hey, I need you to." So you're a cartoon bird, and this American voice actor is like,
I got it.
Foghorn, got it. Knock that one out of the park.
So before we start wrapping up, we haven't actually talked about the overall story of
Right. I was about
the
to ask
show.
because for me, I feel like the ending is kind of weak on some
It
levels
is.
because
I agree.
It gets too abstract.
it tries to go Evangelion a little bit. on us.
Oh yeah.
It tries to get kind of like esoteric and weird.
Metaphysical.
It's like
But
that's
it
not
ain't
what this show's
it
about,
ain't
bro.
got the chops for it. Yeah, it's like whoa. I know y'all saw Evangelion. Let's not. We should just have like a space battle between two ships.
Yeah, really
you know?
good ship space battle. Good
Yeah.
grapple spin thing.
And then they still do that, but it's still marred up in some of the like.
Oh,
what is the galactic ley line? We're Data. Okay.
It also becomes a little like Gurren Lagann esque, where like it scales up.
It keeps scaling and
Yeah.
scaling. I'll definitely say that episode, like the finale episode of just like the main like core fight, That like, so whenever he's fighting Hazanko like as the Geomancer and the Outlaw Star, it's probably one of my least favorite episodes.
I'm not wild about it because I feel like it could have been so much better.
Well, because if you're coming from episode 25, which is when they're in the Maze of Despair, and they're like, you're having all these like really interesting interactions between all the pirates and stuff all coming together. And fighting.
Is that when Harry?
That's when Harry
sacrifices himself.
Yeah,
I felt
fantastic.
It's a great episode.
I feel like the Anton 7 are a little wasted.
Absolutely,
they are.
Just because it was like they reached the end of the show and they're like, hey, we still have all these other characters.
Knock these guys out.
Like, line them up, knock them down, boys. Well, I'm your secret brother wearing your face from your past. Cool, cut them in half. All right, let's go. Next one up.
Dang, that's weird. Chop. Okay.
And it's just like we kill like 5 of the 7 4 of the 7 assassins in the span of like 6 minutes. And
it's quick.
Holy cow! We just lined them up, mowed them down.
So who was the first one? The guy, the
Shimi,
the dude he meets at the bar.
Yes, yeah.
When that started, I went, okay. Now every episode after this is going to be a different
member. And you just don't know who it could be.
Yeah. But I definitely think that the ending, like, main conflict is weak, but the emotional through line that they have with Melfina and Jean, I think, is really well done and good.
With her kind of losing faith in him and then it coming back, like, that's a good arc. That's
and then I still feel like for me at least, and maybe it was just my read on the show, having not seen it all the way through, was like at no point until late did I feel like there was anything between
like a
Jean and
romantic.
Melfina. I thought she was just like a girl on his crew, or just like Jim and somebody else. And then all of a sudden, it kind of takes a romantic turn a little bit, but then he kind of rejects it. And I was like, so wait, are we trying to make them an item?
But see, I really liked that because throughout the show, it's really beat down in your head. Hey, Jean's a womanizer.
Yeah.
He's like, I can sleep with that. Oh, yeah. Duffman's thrusting in the direction of the problem, like constantly. And then when we get Melfina, who is hyper naive, doesn't know who she is, he's like, actually not a scumbag. He's just like, hey, whoa, okay.
He has some minor scumbag moments.
There's some minor scumbag.
There's some anime tropes in here that are like, oh dear, I opened the door.
That's why you have Jim
time
to knock him on the head with a pot.
Exactly, But for the most part, he's very hands off.
Yes.
Hey, like, we're gonna help you, but like that's you got to solve whatever's going on here.
And the thing I like about that too is because then you have the episode of when they're at like the kind of big like archaeological dig temple place, and you have that whole conversation with him and Suzuka where he's kind of like, I don't know what to do with her.
Yeah.
Because like I made her this promise and I at this point, I don't think I can keep it. I don't
feel like I can make it happen.
And you have like this really good level of introspection to where then after that, everything he does is kind of for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was really good.
I think that's valid. It's just, I think it was lost on me for a couple episodes. I didn't realize that's what they were hinting at. And then I was like, oh. And then once I did that, I was like, okay. And then for me, at least, it felt a little rushed at the end that like it would go from like, I kind of have feelings for this girl to like, you're my forever person, And then they even like at the end when they pinch each other's cheeks and stuff, I kept thinking like, are they going to kiss? Like, are we going to get like an actual romantic
kind of relationship?
It's not, but it feels like, I don't know. It's like I still hadn't at that point figured out. Like, I guess it's not that relationship. It was what I had to like process afterwards. Yeah. Because for me, it was so quick that I was like, oh, so they're into each other. Oh, they're not. You know what I mean?
I think it's more on the level of romantic tension.
Right.
Like, but it's not like, oh, I overtly love you.
Well, and I think too, they were probably knowing that they wanted to do more.
They may be saving it.
They were like, we're not gonna do our whole.
Well, if you waste all that tension in the first season, where do you do next season?
Right.
Yeah. Ross and Rachel get married.
To bring that back to like comparing it to Trigun and Cowboy Bebop, I feel like with those shows they knew they were ending it, and so they had
a little bit more closure romantically with the love interests.
Yeah, like a little more finality at least, to where you're not left hanging. As to where this it did feel like, and which I love, by the way, his new like the haircut, the new outfit.
Oh yeah, he's slick.
I'm like, whoa, yeah, dude. Which all the character sounds are great, anyways, especially his. But then in the post ley line,
credit scene,
Gene, I was like, oh, cool.
He's just stuck in jail because he didn't pay parking tickets.
Which is just wild.
It always comes back to you. I saved the galaxy. Yeah, buddy. You need to owe your parking ticket.
Should have wished for the power to get out of parking tickets while you were Data, you idiot.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I mean, I really like the show a lot. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's definitely, obviously I love it. I have a tattoo of it on my shoulder, but even outside of that, like, it's always just been one of those shows where I can just kind of throw it on whenever I want, and I'll infinitely rewatch this. I mean, I'm curious about what you guys.
It holds up really well.
I feel like this is probably one of those shows that I wouldn't watch in its entirety. If
you can cherry pick some episodes.
I would probably blow through and watch like a few of my favorites, because now that I know the overall plot, I feel like there's some episodes are, like we said, inconsistent. Some are better than others. Yeah. Versus like a Bebop where I would watch the whole thing.
See, I'm actually kind of on the opposite end. Like, and whenever we get to Bebop, we'll get to that. My opinion, but I'm not a big Bebop fan. I mean, it's fine.
But see, that's a difference between, I think, when I saw this on Toonami, I was like, that's just fun. When I saw Bebop on Toonami, I was like, this changes everything.
So I was 15 when I saw Bebop and Outlaw Star and Trigun, I guess. So it's kind of one of those where I think I just hit better with like maybe the more juvenile show of Outlaw Star.
I don't want to make the whole crack, but
because you guys are a little bit older than I.
We are older and more mature, so we're
more wizened.
You're seniors in high school or just a little bit past that. To where
I graduated.
This show would be whenever it was introduced in 2001 to Western audiences. Right. It's just. Like, if you're a little bit older, you're probably going to vibe with Cowboy Bebop more than you would with Outlaw Star.
I for real think that's what it is.
And I think some of it is, like Trigun and Outlaw Star are a lot of fun, a lot of action, a lot of, bright colors, pretty lights kind of stuff, right? And Bebop is way more muted and mellow. And seeing that at the age I was, probably like 17, I think, it was like, oh, whoa, cartoons can be serious.
Yeah, no, I can definitely understand that.
This is the first of
because Outlaw Star still feels like anime.
It feels like it still feels like a cartoon.
Yeah,
So
but I think I think probably my favorite thing about it is it really does handle the romance of adventure. Yes, really, really well.
Yes,
and I think that's probably its biggest selling point is because it's so unapologetic about how enthusiastic it is about space travel and exploration and adventure.
They use the whole "boy has a dream" monologue as just an ad for Toonami.
I know, because it's incredible.
It's an incredible monologue. Yes.
So, would you recommend this?
Absolutely. To anyone, it doesn't matter. I mean, realistically, I mean, if you like anime and you like any kind of space cowboy, space western stuff, definitely watch this show if you haven't. I
mean, it'd be hard to like those things and not have already seen it in a lot of ways.
Like, it hasn't been available. Like, honestly,
it's also the hardest to find of all of them.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's available for streaming anywhere right now.
It's on Hulu. That's where I watched it.
Yeah. What about you guys? Would you recommend it? Rewatch it?
I would. I don't know that I would. I would lead out of the gate with this, if especially if this is like your first anime. I don't know if I'd be like, jump in Outlaw Star, baby. But I think for sure if you like the space cowboy vibe and you like just fun shows, I would definitely recommend it.
No, this hits the vibe check. Has a lot of fun, some interesting episodes. Definitely rewatchable.
Yeah. All right, so that does sound like all the time we have. But before we go, we always have to talk about our Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can get access to all of our bonus content.
All of it.
All of it.
For $1 a month.
Bonus episodes, commentaries, all sorts of fun stuff.
You can take part in Patreon picks polls. We get into there with our bonus episodes are a different format. They're not like, our normal reviews. They're like, we do tier lists with chips. We got we got Gundam starters. If you're into anime, and you're like, hey, I've never watched Gundam. We got a whole starter pack for you.
Yep. But yeah, you definitely should follow us on social. Leave us a review wherever you are listening right now. Share us with a friend. We would really appreciate it. That does sound like all the time we have. So until next time, I'm Andrew.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Steven.
And every spoiler was intended.